Hey Wednesday Wanderers, this is Ranger Erin, and today's topic is going to be about light pollution. So when we talk about pollution, we're usually thinking about trash or we're thinking about chemicals. But pollution can really be anything that doesn't belong there that is harmful to those animals and those plants that are in that habitat. So sometimes it's those things that you don't think about as much, just like light. So even though light can be totally natural, humans have put light in a lot of places that they just don't belong. And it does end up hurting a lot of those animals. Now, most of those animals that it really ends up hurting are our nocturnal animals. So nocturnal again means that those animals that are going to be awake at night and they sleep during the day, and you can imagine that it might mess with them in all different kinds of ways. So a lot of our animals that are nocturnal have really dark furs and dark skins that they're going to be able to blend in with the night. But if there's a lot of light out there, suddenly their camouflage isn't going to work so well. They're also going to be a little bit more adapted to living in those dark situations, so they're going to have really good eyesight in the dark. But if there's a lot of light out there, that's going to get in the way of their good night vision. So it's going to kind of mess them up. So even us humans, we have some pretty good night vision, but it can take us a full 10 minutes in order for our eyes to adjust. So if there's like a street lamp over there and another light over on the other side, if you're going back and forth between those spots, it's really going to mess with your eyesight a little bit. And then the last thing is that it's going to mess up our communication. So some animals like fireflies really depend on that dark to be able to send their messages. They're hoping for it to be really dark out so that when they do light up their abdomen in order to attract a mate, they're really going to get that message across. And that's just not going to happen as well if there's too much light. Their little signal is just going to get lost in all the other light. So if we're thinking about that light pollution, we're going to think about pirates for a second. So if you think about your typical idea of a pirate, they're going to have an eye patch, and they have kind of a special story with that eye patch. So it's not that a whole bunch of pirates were losing their eyes, but what was going on is that they would wear an eye patch in order to protect their night vision, because it would be really bright out on those ships when they would try and overtake another ship. It would be really bright out, so they would have all of their day vision going on. But then they would have to switch really quickly to night vision going down below decks when they're trying to loot it. So when they would go below decks, they would switch their eye patch over to the other side so that that eye that they've already got ready for that dark space is going to be ready to go right as soon as they get in there. So the first activity that I'm going to ask you to do is you're going to do a little experiment with yourself. And maybe you do this a little bit later on. You're just going to need a flashlight of some type of nice bright light, maybe even make a campfire and you can look into the campfire. Do not look into the sun, that's not a good light source, but you want to be in a dark space. So a dark space with a fire or maybe with a flashlight. And you're going to cover one eye, and with your other eye you're going to look into that light source for maybe about 5 minutes. Definitely no longer than 10 minutes. You're going to look into that light. Set your timer. A really good way to make the time go faster is to tell stories. Or maybe you're just thinking about your most favorite nocturnal animal, whatever it is. You wait for that whole 5 minutes, and then when you're finished, you just look around and you can switch from eye to eye, and one of your eyes is going to be adjusted for the dark, and one of your eyes is going to be adjusted for the light, and it's going to look so different when you use your two different eyes. Look closely at this scene. There's two raccoons that are hidden away. One you'll probably notice right away because the light's hitting it, and that camouflage just doesn't work too well when the light's hitting it. But the other one has found a nice shadow to hide in. Can you see it? I'll give you a second. If we look deep down here in the shadows, that other raccoon can barely see it just where that light hits the edge of it. Whereas this one up here, bright and obvious. Wouldn't be very easy for that raccoon to get around without being able to be seen. So we put out lights because they help to keep us safe. But we want to be able to balance that with what's good for nature. So we don't want to just light up the whole sky. What we want to do is light up the places that matter. So one thing that you can do with your family is to take a walk right around dusk. So as the sun is starting to set and all the lights are starting to turn on, and look for those lights that are pointed straight up. So those lights are wasting all their light by pointing them straight up, or if a lot of light is escaping to the sides, what you want to look for, a good light, is one that's pointed directly at the ground. That way you can see where you're walking, but it's not going to mess around with too many nocturnal animals. The last activity that we're going to do, thinking about light pollution, is a little craft, making a nocturnal scene. So you'll notice in this little scratch-off pad, I've got a bat right up here that's hunting for its moth, and over here I've got a lightning bug. We're going to make our own scratch pad. So what you're going to start off with is some good heavy quality paper, maybe some poster board. I'm going to be using watercolor, and you're going to use your oil-based crayons or oil pastel, something that's oil-based. And I've got most of this colored in. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. I'm going to color in the rest of that, put a nice good coat of those oil pastels on there. Make sure the whole thing, I've got kind of a red, orange, yellow theme going on, but it can be any colors you want. You could do it in stripes. You could do it in splashes of colors, just like I have. Now we've got it all covered in that oil-based crayon. And then we're going to take some black tempera paint, or poster paint if you've got that. You're going to put just a drop of soap in there. So regular old dish soap. We're going to mix that up. So going on top of our oil-based crayons is going to be a water-based paint, and that's why we need that soap in order to let it stick. We're just going to put a nice coat over top of that. It's okay if you see a little bit of that peeking through. We're just going to cover the whole thing in that black paint. Once you get finished covering the whole thing in black paint, I've got one that I've already finished and has already dried out. So we'll set this one aside for now. So this is my one, my fresh scratch-off sheet. And you can use a pencil, you can use a stick like I'm going to use. And I think I'm going to draw some nocturnal animals. So I'm going to draw a beaver. You've got big old teeth. Little ears here. Big old tail. Some water in the background. So you're going to make your own little scratch sheet, make those nocturnal animals. And as always, if you want, you can send me a picture of what you made. You can put that in the comments below, or you can send it to us via email or through snail mail. And I will catch you all next time.